My name is Syed. I'm joining in from Seattle. I have Suchita joining in from India. We have Rema from UAE and Shilpa from India. So let's wait for a few more minutes and folks are joining in here.
Yeah, I think
All
we
right.
should wait a while.
On the West Coast. I know many of you were writing to me saying, why is it 8 o'clock on West Coast too early? Well, that's because she's in India and it's 9:30 p.m. for her.
9:30 p.m. Yeah.
And Rema is 8 p.m. And I
Yeah.
don't care about Suchita. And I don't care about myself. I care.
No, but you should care about yourself also. Your well-being is also very important.
I know it's been a long time since I woke up at 8. Because I sleep at around 6 in the morning.
Yeah, because you keep ungodly hours, I guess.
Yeah, it's nice to see this world out. Normally
I think we all do. It's become like a 24/7 kind of thing these days,
Yeah.
Ever since COVID.
Yeah.
When I normally get up, it's not light outside. So when I look outside of my window, I don't see anything. And suddenly I'm seeing, what's this tree here? I'm seeing things outside. I'm like, that's a new house? How did they build a house?
So do you plan to sleep after the webinar now, Syed, for today?
Hopefully. Yeah. I'll try to sleep. I slept early. Anyway, here's the message. Oh, namaste. Namaste, Prabh. To have you. All right, let's get started. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining in. We are very happy to have Shilpa and Rema joining us, two of the most experienced counselors that I know of, not just in our network, but generally. And we have worked together, we have traveled together. And one of the things that we did was travel together for the Global Educator Program, which hosts international counselors in the US. We travel across college campuses, learn about student, faculty, just get a more sort of lived experience. So let's get started with introductions. Let's start with you, Rema.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rema. I'm based in Dubai. I am an Indian who's been living in Dubai for several years now, over 2 decades. I have a small counseling center. It's called Counseling Point. And I help students, both undergrads as well as graduate students. My primary focus is undergrad because we have a lot of schools here. And the schools have different curricula, IB, A-levels, Indian curriculum, French, German, you name it, and we have it. So, the clientele that I work with are very international, but being an Indian, it just so happens that more of Indian clients come to me, not because I don't want to work with other nationalities, but yes, in a nutshell, this is what I do. And I have students studying in different countries, and US is one of the top destinations that students from here select. Shilpa, over to you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. You've heard my name enough. So I am Shilpa, yes, and I'm from Oberoi International School in Mumbai. I recently moved to Mumbai. Before that, I was at Nirja Modi School in Jaipur. So got about 16 years of experience at a national curriculum school, and Oberoi has IB. So a lot of experience between both the curriculars. So, and I have been into college counseling for the last 6.5 years, but before that, I was a math teacher. So I've taught IB math also.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Syed, you're muted.
All right, Suchita, you want to introduce yourself? And
yeah, hi. As most of you know, I recognize quite a few names that are joining in. Syed and I are business partners and we run College together. We've met some of you and are delighted to have you here as we, tell you a little bit along with Rema and Shilpa about, our travels to university campuses and share a little bit about how we conduct these engagements. And of course, after we've done a bit of talking, perhaps you can pose questions to Rema and Shilpa, both about their experience with TGEP as well as what they would like to see when they come to your campuses. So welcome again.
All right. Thank you, Suchita. And let's start with Rema now, and then Shilpa, your thoughts on why is it important for counselors to visit campuses?
Okay, one of the first things that which strikes my mind is that the fact that actually going and physically seeing different campuses, understanding what is on offer makes a huge difference. Unfortunately, I have not myself studied in an American university. So, but then having seen so many universities, every time, every visit, I wish I had the opportunity to do that. And there have been times when universities have opened up. For example, I was sitting in a philosophy class, and it totally zapped me because I did not know what until such time my understanding of what philosophy was totally shattered by the way it was taught and the way similarly in an art school I went to a drawing class, and I realized why it is so important to foster that love for creativity, and how the campuses there deal with it, because it's very different from what I was used to. So one of the things I gained, one of the most important things I gained from actually visiting is not only the networks that I built, but also the understanding from experiential learning. It's not bookish. It's not that I'm looking at some book and rattling off names of possible, but actually having seen it and seeing what sorts of institutions are out there and campuses, what they offer, what is this liberal arts about, all of that, gives us a greater understanding of what is available and helps us also find matching students, if not today, in the future.
Shilpa, your experience?
Yeah, I wanted to add for the matching bit, and I have experienced this in the last so many years that whenever I visited a campus, I've texted a couple of students from that campus, this seems like a good fit for you, and I've really seen that sometimes those good fit messages really turn out to be good fit, and I think it's just the vibe. We've met with the students, we know what are the student preferences, and when we really visit campus, it just, you feel that this student would probably be happy at this campus, would enjoy the activities here, would enjoy student life here. I think it really puts a lot into perspective, so it really helps us decide that. I think it also kind of puts that name in our head to put it on our students list. A lot of times we do get lots of emails from universities, but having not visited a campus, sometimes there's always a question mark. Am I advising right? So if we visited the campus, I feel it just kind of, you know authorizes us to put that university on a student list. So I think that sometimes is a big boon, because whenever I look at the college lists that my children, I mean, the college list that I finalize with the students, I end up realizing that most of these schools I have already visited. So maybe it's something that's in the back of my mind, but I think there is a correlation. Having said that, both my children go to universities that I had not visited before they went to those campuses.
We got late. We should have taken you there before.
I know.
Well, the other thing that I realized that, when we post pictures, when we were traveling together, whether in India or in US, and we post, a lot of your students are also doing project with us. They send us these messages, which, they're very personal messages, like, yeah, I saw you with Shilpa ma'am there, what was she doing? And then, it starts a different kind of conversation. And I also noticed that on our student groups, students talk to each other, about their counselors. They, hey, I saw Rama ma'am was traveling with you. Or is she, oh, Shilpa is your counselor? Yeah, Shilpa ma'am is my counselor. And they chit chat. It starts a different kind of conversation among students. But I was curious more for also, parents. When parents learn that you folks are traveling and have been to a certain campus and you're talking about that campus, does that change the impact that your parents have on the kind of recommendations you're making, Rama?
Definitely, definitely. Also, things like scholarships. So many times parents will then ask, do you think you can put in a good word for a scholarship consideration or things like that? If you have a connect with the admissions person, you can always reach out to that individual and say, this student, this is his profile. Do you think he would fit in for the scholarship that you're offering? Whatever, that personal connect makes a huge difference. Rather than reach out to somebody you don't really know, if you've gone to that school, it's easier, 2 steps easier.
Right. And I think if Shilpa, you could add to that, about how these visits, I mean, I'm sure they help you build a relationship, just like, Rema was saying. And how do you think that helps you build your relationship, and, how do you work with those relationships?
So obviously, I mean, actually, meeting with these admission officers have really built up strong network with the parents, students, as well as with them. I mean, I know that they are an email away, and I let the students also know that they are an email away. And I have that much trust with them. In fact, I can see in the list here, there are a few people I'm seeing the names after so many years, and I'm so glad to see them. I don't want to put anybody on the spot here, but I'm really happy to look at this list. And we haven't met in ages, but I still remember them. And all these people whom I've met in the past still hold a very, very, I mean, I think about them very fondly. And I know that if I'm ever stuck with any student, they would be a call away. And not just, these are not just words coming out of my mouth, but I've really put them into practice. I have reached out to so many of these admission officers that I've met in these tours for some amazing scholarships for my students. So I think it's totally beneficial for us and for the students, for us to know each other. That is one. Second is, I mean, in India, we have this great group of about 240 counselors in that one WhatsApp group. And the conversations we have, we keep advocating the universities that we visited, the university officers that we know of, and we are super friendly with. So that communication also, I think, goes a very long way. So yeah, in all, it's great for us to know you guys.
Right. And both Syed and I see a lot of those chats happening on those WhatsApp groups, everything from, do you know so and so, and can you refer me to so and so? Or sometimes, sometimes, of course, it's pulling each other's leg and, all that kind of thing. But it's lovely to see the bonds. In fact, Rema was talking with us the other day about that. Rema, would you like to talk about the kind of bonds and relationships that you've built with the counselors that you've traveled with, and how it really, we've seen it help each one of you professionally as well?
Definitely. So it's not just the student perspective, it's also so many other things. Even because I'm not attached to any particular school, so most of the others who I traveled with were counselors based in a school, so their interactions and everything was related to that particular school. Mine was slightly different in that I'm an independent counselor. So there are times that an independent counselor is not privy to some of the information that schools get, right? So when we have this network of counselors and we get to know about a new scholarship, or we get to know about new SATs are not required, no prerequisites, stuff like that, we put it into the group. So everybody benefits. It's a collective thing, and it's for the greater good of the community, not just hanging on to information for ourselves. So that's one of the biggest advantages when we collaborate. There is so much more that the student gains, all students across the board. We too in the UAE have a platform. We call it the Counselor's Eye, wherein we discuss these things. This group is not limited to, it's a very inclusive group. So it is not just related to careers, it's also to do with learning support and all of that. But all said and done, we also have sometimes students who have special learning needs and things like that. So if we can tap into each other's resources, it is very, very useful. So many times through our because we just went 2 years ago, some of us are also friends on Facebook. So we have had very good, interesting conversations. And just recently, one of the counselors who traveled with us, her daughter has got a 100% scholarship in one of the institutions, and everyone from the group has congratulated her, because it is seen as something really fantastic. Even the quietest person in our group pitched in and said, hey, that's fantastic, because in this time when everything is a challenge, getting some fantabulous news like 100% scholarship, that too from a well-renowned university, is something that we all embrace and celebrate. So it's not only the happy things, but even the difficult challenges when, if early decisions did not yield the kind of results we were hoping, then we cry on each other's shoulder as well. So, so it's all of it. It's not just the happy things, but also, so, okay, what is the next strategy? What are you using now? So if that hasn't happened, so what is the next step? RD, are you looking through RD? Are you looking at rolling admission, blah, blah. So are universities still accepting students? All of that. Oh, I'm talking too fast.
No, I agree, Rema, that we have these small families. Every group that we've been with, we have these small families that we keep reaching out to in times of happiness and sometimes, yes, disappointment. But yes, I agree with Rema that there's a lot of camaraderie between all of us. In fact, I just a few weeks back, I saw Suchita meet with two of our folks from that group, and we were so envious of the fact that we couldn't meet them,
We all said we are jealous of you.
And it's fantastic to meet up like that, because when I did meet with the both of them, we're also getting updated with everything that is happening, and also talking about several new universities, because at Ecology, we are working with several new ones. So informing them about those, and they were also telling me about some of the new work they've started. So there's always new stuff to catch up on and share with each other. So it's these relationships are so important. But I think, going ahead, Syed, do you have something to add, or maybe we can ask Rema and Shilpa to maybe share some tips with the universities, on how to make this really useful for them.
That'll be great. That'll be lovely to hear from both of you, Rema and Shilpa. What advice do you have for university, especially what has happened now in 2020? So much has changed. So what tips do you have for universities if they were to host counselors?
Syed, sorry, your voice is a little low. So I think you need to increase your volume. And when you're answering, Karishma has asked, how do you suggest during this time, would it be possible to visit the campus? So this is a good time to let them know, Shilpa, that you'll be visiting in June.
Yeah. So
Over to both of you, and if you could tell them a little bit, given the whole change in scenario, as Syed said, um,
Okay.
Shilpa, you could start, and then Rema, or either way.
Yeah, sure.
okay.
Shilpa, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we do plan to visit universities in June, but and how can you make these visits memorable? And I do have a question: what's the difference between visiting big name schools and lesser known universities? So I just probably want to put in that. So I think when we are visiting schools, we don't really look at what rank of schools we are visiting, honestly, because when we go to visit schools, I mean, US has 4,000 universities, and it's not possible for us to remember the ranks of each school. So for me, honestly, rankings don't matter. I really go to the school to look at the facilities an international student would get, in terms of support, in terms of learning. I love university visits that make us do something, because we definitely get bored of watching presentations. That's not an ideal situation, because I don't think we enjoy the classroom setting anymore. So any university that makes us do things, I think those are some very, very memorable universities and visits. Just like Rema mentioned about a philosophy class, I thoroughly enjoy attending those classes, because it really makes me feel like a student, as well as makes me see how education can be different. So it's very important for us to know how lessons are delivered on a college campus. So when we are visiting campuses, we would like to see that. But let's say if those visits don't happen, or maybe your state doesn't allow, so virtual visits are also good. But I've had lots of universities doing virtual information session, and any university that has just a PowerPoint playing doesn't go well with the students, because students are really zoomed out, to be very honest. The visits or the interactions which involve having breakout rooms and in different polls and different cahoots, so those kind of interactions really go well with the students. They want to they want to feel that they are playing a game and there's a quiz happening and things like that. So instead of doing just a presentation, I think fill in with a lot of interactions, have padlets, have these online interactive tools that you can use with the students. Because if you want engaged students, if you want students to listen to things that you have to offer, you will have to change the way you are presenting to the students. Yeah, I think I've said enough, but Rema, over to you.
Okay. To add to that, I would also say, if we get a chance to look at, if we are doing the physical visits, I would definitely like a day in the residence halls to actually stay on campus, because a lot of concern among students from this part of the world about the security, the safety, and the kind of facilities there are. So when we have actually stayed in a dorm, we did it with a couple of universities when we went on with one university when we went on our last trip. So we actually shared a room with another colleague, and it was just like going back to school. And all of the things that came with it, going to the place where we all had to assemble for our breakfast and stuff like that. It gave us a sense of what to expect. Now, most often, I know all of the universities have Olympic size swimming pools, the most fantabulous libraries, the greatest of research labs. But then what makes you different? Do you have something going on which we would be keen on contributing to our student? So there were some institutions that we were taken to that showed us a little different kind of programs. Like, we went to a place where they were talking about packaging industry. I had never even considered packing industry as a potential place where a student with biotechnology can go in and do a master's in packaging, and then it opened my eyes to possibilities. So just imagine every one of you have programs that kind of sets you apart. So if you can talk about something which is a little different. I went one time to a jewelry making place. So they had a session where we each had a chance to make a ring for ourselves. And there was a lot of, it was not this particular group, but it was another group. And all the same, we enjoyed it. So if we have something hands-on, and because most of the time what we do is we go and see all the facilities, and then we have a lot of PowerPoint presentations, and then we have maybe a panel session. But I guess the panel session is good because we get varying perspectives and we get to see a lot of students. But at the same time, when the university representatives are there, then the panelists, especially students, they're very conscious. So if we ask them questions, they are very guarded in their responses. You know what I mean? So there were institutions where the admissions people said, okay, we leave you to it, guys. Speak up and don't be shy and things like that. But then there were other places where they were there the whole time. So, naturally the students would give very studied responses, So, I feel, and I also feel that if you have competitions and things, online engagement, you can give each of the counselors something that they take back in terms of a competition or a poetry or something, which is a little different, which will then make the students think, why this, I've never heard of this university. Let me look at a virtual tour of this university. What is it that Shilpa ma'am talked about, their young leaders program or whatever, I'm just saying, whatever it is that you want to showcase, which is a little different, makes huge difference for our students here. We, like Shilpa mentioned, we all are aware there are 4,000 and it's physically impossible to go and visit. So if we do have the liberty of visiting, let's see how we can make the maximum out of that exposure. That's what I would request.
And also related to that, and Shilpa, you could add to this bit, is because of COVID, suddenly parents have woken up to the importance of community on campuses. Very often parents don't recognize the fact how important it is for students to have their own little community. Am I audible? I see that.
No, sorry.
Low.
You're very
Yeah.
low. Your voice is very low. I
All
thought
right.
perhaps others could hear you.
Is
Come
better?
closer to the mic.
Is this better?
Yeah, better now.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So a lot of parents, before COVID it was very hard. And that was one of my favorite experiences, was these online communities, these focus groups, in experiences with international student groups. And I found they were the most rewarding experience that I had as an international student. But parents didn't really bought into that. They didn't see the value. But now they realize how important it is for the mental health of the student, but also for them to build bonds and share. What do you think?
No, I totally agree. I mean, so that's what is my fun. One of the very first questions that I ask usually when I go on campuses is the international support system, So what is the kind of community, And I mean, obviously, our parents also want to know about, how accessible these campuses are for international students, what, I mean, in terms of sometimes safety as well, like Rema mentioned, but also in terms of, Indian parents sometimes are very, very emotional and touchy about food. So they would always ask that, are there enough food joints in and around the campus? Will my child go alone and have his lunch or dinner? So those are some kind of, I know these questions can be a little weird for you guys to understand, but I think that sense of community is extremely important to Indian parents, because most of the parents here and most of the students come in from joint families. I don't think any of our students have ever had a meal alone. So, so having that sense of community on campus is extremely important to our parents, and also to kind of get a sense that what is the support. So let's say Thanksgiving comes by. So where does my child go when the entire campus is on a holiday for 4 days? So what happens to my child? So those are some kind of questions that we answer. So it's important for us to understand the community, and it's also important to understand the support that is offered to the international community, basically.
Rema, you want to add some thoughts to that?
From the UAE perspective, it will also be about halal meat and proximity to a mosque, because students, it may not be that they're going to pray 5 times a day when they come to the US, but then they would definitely want to see if there's access to a mosque, and whether there is some feeling of community. Even when we traveled with Suchita and Syed, in our group, we had a person who was actually observing fast. The counselor himself was totally observing fast during Ramadan, and we all helped him celebrate Eid together because he broke his fast, and we went to the mosque. It was actually in a big mall. It was one of the largest malls there, and he broke his, the Ramadan over there. So, these things we may not put a lot of emphasis on it, but definitely it's not that you need to have a mosque, but if you do have interfaith prayer room somewhere where individuals can practice whatever it is that they believe in, it makes a big difference, because people are looking, and right now there is greater understanding of spirituality and the need for all of this for emotional and spiritual well-being. So I think that's also something that you need to have in mind.
Yeah. Also, I have realized that a lot of parents, they want to know how student community interact with the community outside the campus. So what happens, I remember in Ohio University where I studied, we had this lovely interaction with communities, with farmers community. They would come often and talk about their experiences with globalization, agricultural practices, with their worldview. And it was fascinating to see farmers coming to class and inviting us to come to their farms, and they will talk to us on their farm. And it was very well facilitated by universities. So if any of those programs you have, please highlight it, bring some of the students who have those experiences. I also want to go back to what Shilpa and Rama were talking about, students being in the room and sharing their experiences without the college team being there. Yeah, that makes a lot of difference. And I think we went to a couple of campuses who had student panels. So how are student panels important, Shilpa?
Also, student panels are, I think, from our perspective, are one of the most important things that we want to, we want to experience when we go on college campuses. But yes, I agree. Answers should not be guarded. I mean, students should not feel the need to say something which is not right or which is not true. So I feel it's how it helps is because we know the kind of questions the students are going to ask us, or they ask us, right? So we can pose those questions, those similar questions to those students. And in some universities, I've got such honest answers. And believe me, when these students answer with that kind of honesty, I feel like I want to send my student here. Even if there's a negative feedback, at least there's honesty. I mean, that's a skill that university brings out in that student. I take it that way. I don't take it as a negative feedback for the university. So it's important for us to it's important for us to know how these students spend their weekends. What does Greek life look at on the campus? I mean, that's one very important question for us to ask. What is the party scene at the universities? Because we understand that the students are not going to be in classes all day. They will do fun stuff, and we want to know what are the kind of fun stuff students have an opportunity to do. how can they apply for jobs on campus as international students, so those are some things I think which are, I mean, we get a lot of valuable input from those kind of interactions. And I've also spoken to students about majors, courses, concerts, shopping, movies. I mean, think about anything and everything, and we've spoken to these children about, and they most of the times they really give us great answers, except for a few universities. Believe me, there were interactions at a couple of universities where I felt that the students, and these are some high ranked institutions, where I really felt that the children had so much attitude, and I did not feel like advising those institutions to my students.
Also, the
Rema, your thoughts?
The students who, who have made walking backwards an art while showing their campuses, they are usually your biggest ambassadors, because we tend to ask them, because they are our go-to persons when that 1 hour that they're showing us around. So we get some FaceTime with them, we talk to them. So other than the panel sessions, which is open to everybody, the people who are taking us around and explaining to us about things on campus, they are the ones we generally question about their experience. We want to know about their perspective. Do you have friends from your school here? I mean, it's questions that not any academic questions, everything related to things that we would have to deal with our students, things that they would come up and ask us would be things that we pose to them. And I'm telling you, all of them across the board, the ambassadors or the guys who take us on those trips, they're so knowledgeable about things. They even know the history backwards. And they tell us so many things, interesting anecdotes. I guess you guys have taught them well, and they also have read up on things. So it's very interesting. Some of the guides who took us around and who are part of the international admissions office. Really, I think every one of the trips I've had real good exposure and good fun.
And then they end up with giving us a business card. That's even more cool.
And should talk about a little bit more, so student interaction is certainly important when you guys come on the campuses. Who else? Yes. What about faculty?
Faculty, yes. So student, yes. Faculty, I've already mentioned that it's so important for us to meet with the faculty and understand the mode of instruction. Is it always lecture style? What are the group setups that happen? So kind of getting a sense of the class sizes and the teacher-student ratio. I don't want things that are there on website, because we understand that the student-teacher ratio printed on the website is a very different calculation than what actually happens on campus. So, to get a feel of what is the kind of interaction the student is getting into. So faculty interaction, super important. I also would like to know about, there are some institutions I know who are compulsorily doing a senior thesis for their senior year students, and they never talk about it when we speak with them. Why? That's one of the most important things that you need to tell us, that your university offers a component in the 4 years which is equivalent to a PhD kind of a paper. So it's important for us to know these real niche things about your programs. If you have an honors program that has some perks attached to it, let us know how can we advocate for your honors program. Let us know. We all know that the study abroad programs are very common, and most of your colleges, most of your institutions have that facility. But beyond those study abroad programs, we want to know what are the interdisciplinary programs you have. We want to know the honors program. If there's anything else that you feel stands out, something that is super popular but international students just don't know about. So let us know about these cool things. And like Rema mentioned, let us know about some cool camps or some competitions that you organize, which we can send it to. We can push it for our students. So I think we need to know something different. I think, in a nutshell, we are really tired of listening to the same things. Give us something different and new.
Also, I'm going to talk a little bit also, student interaction. Very often I see that when we visit campuses with international counselors, most of the time the students are international students. So, we go to a university and suddenly, because there are a bunch of Indian counselors, suddenly they're all the Indian students in the room talking about. Is that important? How important is that? And how would you form your opinion of a certain campus if you get to talk to non-international students, like domestic American students?
Okay, I think a mix is good because the Indian perspective will bring to the table what our students will be exposed to when they actually get there. But when you talk to a home student, we get to know other perspectives as well, which are equally important. Now, we are talking about a place from Dubai, for example. We are already very multicultural. We are, although it is not like a melting pot like America, we have people from 200 nationalities here. Having said that, we are not very international in our interactions. All the Indians club together, the Pakistanis are together, the Arabs are together. That is not true integration. In my opinion, we have to really be inclusive, and everybody has a space in this place. Technically, we are not supposed to have any kind of, on paper it's like that, but by virtue of having done this for years and years and years, Indians stick together, different nationalities stick together. But when we go to an international campus, it's not enough to just see the Indian perspective. I think we need to know because end of the day, should a student decide to stay there and pursue his master's and PhD, she or he, it is not going to be Indian anymore. It would be everybody, right? One of the things I always tell my students, please don't hang around only with your ethnic group. Get your very fact that you're being given an opportunity to go out of your comfort zone means you have to try different things. The very fact, and I have students who have done that, and the very first Thanksgiving, they've gone to their roommate's house, and the roommate has been from some other state. And the experience they come back with in the Christmas time is amazing because they are home for Christmas. So one of the stops is my office, and they say, you know what? I actually went here and it was so amazing. And I never thought this is really what it is like, and all of that. So I think it's not necessary only to interact with international students. I think a mix of both international as well as domestic students is important.
Yeah. My daughter has developed a taste for Turkey after staying for 4 years in the United States.
Just recently, I met a student. So several years ago, I had helped her brother go to a university in Boston, and then he did a study abroad in London. Okay, and right now he has actually become an entrepreneur and set up business in London. And so his sister, who studied in American University of Sharjah, she said, when we went to his graduation, all of us were amazed because most of his friends were international. He wasn't with, we call them the Desi crowd, meaning the Indian crowd, right? So she said, my God, it was so amazing because all of his friends were from different parts of the world. They were not all American. They were from different parts of the world. And we enjoyed the visit because we learned so much during that graduation and the few days after that. So it's important that our students have that liberty to, and so if as counselors visiting, if we do get this opportunity to meet with not just the Indians, but different nationalities, so be it.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears now and let's move from, sort of hosting campus, being hosted on campus, and just zoom out a little bit and talk what's going on. I know there are some general questions here. Shilpa, what's going on? How are students behaving? How are parents? They must be bored with all the online content. What is your advice for universities to reach out to students?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, the presentations have to change the way they are happening. Nobody wants any more information, right? Again, make it activity oriented. I mean, just to give you an example, the college counseling seminar that I take once in 8 days for my class, I really spend a lot of time deciding for that 80 minutes also, because I know that if I present on how to apply to a UK institution or a US university, they are all going to keep their cameras off. Okay. And I won't even know whether they are listening to me. So it's really important to keep them engaged. I mean, there have been some good things, right, in this entire pandemic. And I think technology integration has really taken a leap. And there are some amazing software. So if you can really redevelop your PowerPoints and your presentation strategies, I think that is one big thing. Children are definitely zoomed out. So I would say that if you want to do virtual info sessions, maybe 3 or 4 universities can come together and present, because even as college counselors, I don't think we can approve of individual institutions presenting. So it's important that you can group yourselves into universities that maybe share certain common interests or common features, do group presentations. And again, I mean, as counselors, I definitely want my students to know about how to write a better essay. I want my students to know about financial aid and scholarships. I want my teachers to know how to effectively write their letters of recommendation. So providing these kind of workshops are also good. In fact, I am reaching out to a few institutions in UK, US, to do sessions for my students. So it's not going to be presenting about the university, but kind of doing a small workshop for our students. So, those are the kind of ways I think an engagement is a better engagement than just presenting or giving us information about the university. I mean, this is something that I can think of right now, but I'm happy to add if something comes to my mind.
I recently came across recently I came across a university, and one of the it's not a fun fact, it's a fun engagement. It is a creative university, not naming names, but what they said was they were going to give $1,000 if a student were to make his or her portrait. Other than the regular scholarships and all of that, they had to, it could be a caricature, it could be a proper fine art kind of a submission or a doodle or whatever. But what the student looks at himself or herself and projects. So I thought that was such a cool thing. So, because right now, most of our students, they're really tired of everything related to technology, really, because just this evening I was in a session with a student whose family is now moving to UK, and she tells me that because of blended learning, they haven't had opportunity to do experiments directly in the labs. So the teacher, for example, titration, teacher will show you a demonstration and you're expected to learn to do a titration. I said, how is it possible? Because when you actually do the exam, you're supposed to do it yourself. So she says just before the final exams, they're going to have 20 to a room or 12 to a room or something, and have a whole bunch of experiments where they would get to do it themselves. But this COVID has brought about a lot of change and a lot of challenges. But having said that, most people are dealing with it the best way they can. So even physically visiting all these campuses, for Sucheta and Syed, it will be difficult for everything to be put in place until such time as, we know more about travel restrictions and all of that, because it's going to vary with state. So those are also challenges that also, another thing I realize is because many of the universities have now said no need for SAT, which used to be kind of a benchmark. It's not that I'm advocating SAT, but I'm saying, so the playing field is level playing field. There are lots of people. Now, in the Indian system, we have a board exam which differentiates and marks your capability. The IB has, an A level has, but in the American system, you do not have that. So, our students are going to be just like anybody else, and there's not going to be an SAT. I see that there are huge numbers. I mean, we read all these journals and all, and I really am concerned for our students. I'm not talking about Ivy League institutions alone. I'm talking in general. So what is the one thing that is going to make it more effective for our recruitment? What is going to be helpful for our children to know? Because first of all, while I'm sure Shilpa does too, I advocate internships, I advocate research projects and all of that. During this pandemic, nobody is being allowed to do things. Everything is restricted to the computer. So a lot of data analysis and fact finding and all of that is happening, but physical things where they go in and learn for themselves by doing an internship or getting to know a particular profession, those things are not happening really because of the conditions that we are in. So if there are certain things that you're looking for in your applications from the students who are applying, please, when we come there, please tell us so that we better equip our students, because the SAT is not there, APs are there, not there, A levels there, not there, So we are also concerned about these things. Do you want to add to that,
One thing,
Shilpa?
yeah, I just want to add that lately I've been hearing rumors from students and parents that there are universities advising them. I mean, so I work at an IB school, right? So because College Board has scrapped off the subject tests, so now these students and parents are coming up to me and asking me, should we register for the APs because subject tests have been scrapped off? I'm like, why would you take an AP if you're already doing IB? So I think, I don't know from where they've got this myth. So if you can have this communication also rolled out, that if you're already studying in an IB curriculum, there is really no need to do the APs, and APs are not substitutes for subject tests. I mean, I just feel I don't know where did they even get that notion from, but I know one of the institutions published on their website, and I think it's just become a big rumor across the globe that APs are going to replace the subject tests.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some clarity that universities are also going to have to roll out because of these, standardized test changes being made. So absolutely, that was a good point. We have some more questions here. Will you be visiting business school in Barcelona, Spain? Yes, that is, Europe is scheduled for October, and by then, I think pretty much most of the planet will be vaccinated. So I think we should certainly be able to make it there. I think some of the other questions are already answered. If anyone has any more questions, I already answered Prabjot that we are visiting several areas in the US, including the Northeast, Central US, California, Washington. There are really several areas that are marked out already. And Maine is the tip of the Northeast, isn't it? If my geography of the US is right? I think it's the tip of the Northeast, so it's to the east of Vermont, so we shouldn't be too far off from your university. Um, and yeah, Syed, is there something you'd like to add?
We have, I will just, we have last 6 minutes left. So if you have more questions, please post it. In the meantime, I wanted to go back to what Rema and Shilpa were talking. Okay, here's the question. The approach, fly on the wall approach, that also is very good. You don't have to script anything. If something is going on campus, I know at the moment the activities are really down, but if something is happening or something usually happens, roll the camera and let just that be seen and heard. This normal activity. You don't have to come in with a scripted presentation. And I've seen students really liking it. They talk to each other a lot and then they reconnect, they go out and see. And we are planning a lot of events. If you folks wants to do something that is possible in these times, we would love to experiment and explore. A very important theme here at college. We experiment a lot and we explore a lot. So if something is going on your campus, and if you just want to turn the camera on and roll it and let it happen for 5, 6, 10 minutes, and then come in and just do a small commentary on what was that happening. And that approach would also work a lot. It's a sort of a visual breather for the students. All right, let's see.
We missed out. Yeah, we missed out on sharing one experience with TGEP, with Syed and Suchita. So we after every 2 days, we used to have these evening panel discussions, and I think they also added a lot of value to our entire trip, because we definitely heard from the universities during the day, but in the evenings, all of us, I think we were 12 or 13 of us, and then we had a few universities who would join us, and then we would share our expertise with each other. So there used to be a panel of 3 or 4 either counselors or university officers answering and asking questions. I think that was a very, very meaningful interaction that we had during that trip.
Yeah.
And I think
I must add this.
The reverse fair, kind of. The reverse fair.
Yeah. And
The reverse fair, yes.
The interesting part was that was a completely no holds barred panel discussion, So I think each party really listened to the real stuff that, they needed to know. So that was good. Rema, did you want to add something else?
No, so I'm saying this, like speed dating, we did the reverse fair and the round robin piece where we spoke about what we do, what kind of students we deal with and all of that. And it was interesting for the people who are hosting us also, because otherwise we're a whole bunch of counselors and that's it, So they get to know us and what we do. It makes a big difference. And also, I would like to share, it wasn't with your group, but, Syed just mentioned something which is happening on campus or outside with the universities involved. So several years ago, I'd gone to my first improv show. I'd never seen an improv show before, but we had gone on this trip with a group and they took us for an improv show. I have been in India and in Dubai, but now it is quite popular here. But at that time, it was the very first time that I was seeing something, a live kind of acting and different things happening during the improv show. So lots of, activities remain in our heads. Boring lectures don't. But if we have engaged in some activity, we'll always remember that place and that association because of that particular event that we went through.
And although Shilpa, your feedback and everybody said that those conversations were so precious. So this time what we have done is we have increased the amount of travel on the bus. So we want to avoid going to the airport. Airport is so boring, and we thought
I know.
the first few the weather changed and everything got delayed, and we reached Michigan at
4 o'clock, 4 a.m.
4 a.m. and 8 o'clock session, all because of the fact that we had to go to airport and take a flight.
Yeah, airport, yeah.
Airports, we don't want to go to airports. So we'll try to optimize all the time in our own bus. We'll have the driver with us. We'll have the bus with us. This is one of the feedback that this change is just because of the feedback. Plus, we get to talk to each other in the bus. The more time we can stop and experience the US also, and the way we are developing a route, we are looking at all the things that's happening on the way, so way we could stop and have some cultural experience.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of information.
All right, I think we are just exactly 1 hour now.
Any questions have come to you from the others, from the admissions side?
I think we've taken care of all the questions that came in so far. But if there's any last question, please feel free to write in. Else, I think we can, we'll certainly follow up with all of you who attended, and thank you so much for joining in. I don't see any questions coming in, so thanks so much, Rema and Shilpa, and here's looking
Thank you
forward.
so much for having us.
Thank
you for having us.
Yeah, for trusting us with this.
Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, email us. And if you have some ideas based on what we discussed today, please let us know. We have a lot of events being planned. The theme really is experiment and explore. So anything that you think would work, just test it out. We are happy to experiment with you. And with that,
if you need any help from the UAE, please let us know. I'd be happy to help out.
And also, I'll share the contact information. Suchita's email is right here. If you need any contact information, we'll be happy to share. With that, thank you. Thank you again. Have a good day. Thanks again.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.